Okay guys, welcome back. I am Steve from my Aspie journey and welcome back to part 2 of the AQ50 test. And if you remember, in part 1 we looked at the history a little bit and the statistics of the AQ50 test, the founder, and also the first 20 questions. So in today's video we're going to look at the final 30 questions and I'm going to show you my score as well. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy it, and also don't forget to subscribe and press that notification bell as well and become part of our ever growing community. Okay guys, so let's crack on. So question 21. So question 21 is, I don't particularly enjoy reading fiction. Now for this I'm going to put slightly agree. I do read fiction, and there is things like, such as I read the Harry Potter series as they came out, and I enjoyed that immensely. And there is other books that I do enjoy reading, but for the most part, I prefer to read non-fiction, you know, like information, biographies, etc., etc. So for that, I'm going to put slightly agree. Okay, so question 22. I find it hard to make new friends. Now for this I am going to put in I definitely agree. It's not that I can't make friends, but I do find it hard to make new friends. I'm always looking and analysing things, and maybe I suppose the social aspect of things, you know, that does impact as well. So for that one personally I'm going to select definitely agree. Okay, so question 23 is, I notice patterns in things all the time. Okay, so for that one I'm going to select slightly agree. I do notice patterns in a lot of things. One such thing, visually at least anyway, is if someone's got wallpaper or if there's a pattern on a wall, and I'm trying to see if it repeats and how many times it repeats, and that can take quite a while actually. You know, I can spot it and then I'll do it again and again and again. And there's obviously other types of things and patterns as well that I guess I do quite often. So for that one, I'm going to select slightly agree. Okay, so question 24. Now, question 24 is one of those questions that is, again, quite stereotypical. So you have to kind of answer this based on how you feel that they want the answer to be done, but all being truthful. And so it's, I would rather go to the theatre than to a museum. Now, it depends what's on at the theatre, and it depends what's on at the museum. I wouldn't want to go to the history of a pen museum, as in the writing pen, and by the same token, there's certain theatre shows that maybe I wouldn't want to go to either. That being said, it's less stressful somewhat to go to a museum. You know, if I was in a theatre and I had my own little box, not that I'm that rich, but if I was to have, with all my YouTube earnings and that, then I would probably feel quite comfortable. But I suppose I'm going to slightly disagree. It's very borderline, this is, but I'm going to go slightly to disagree. So the aim of this one is, if you select agree that you would rather go to the theatre, you're not going to get that autistic point, so to speak. Okay, because they're going to take it that you'd rather go to a museum, because obviously all autistic people just want to go to museums, and that's it. Okay, so question 25, the halfway point, okay, is, it does not upset me if my daily routine is disturbed. And for this one, I'm going to select I slightly disagree with that one, because it does upset me. You have to be careful with these as well. You have to read them carefully, because sometimes it can be like a double negative. You have to be very careful. So yeah, so it does not upset me. So you have to, so if it does upset you, you have to disagree with it. You get me? So make sure you read these questions properly. So yeah, so I can get quite stressed and anxious and a little bit upset depending on the situation. There's some things that in my daily routine, like getting up, I don't have to get up at a set time. I don't have to do things in a certain order. But there is some things that I do have a routine for, or how my day may go about, especially at work. And if that gets changed, that can put me on the back foot. So yeah, that can happen, especially if I've planned something out and that doesn't go to plan. Maybe we're supposed to go to a certain time and we're late. That's happened quite a few times, and I get quite anxious and a little bit a bit kind of, well, stressed, should we say. So for that, I'm going to put slightly disagree. Okay, so question 26. Now, some of these you'll find they're very similar further up the board, up the list of questions. And they're kind of, in some cases, repeated, but change the way it is. Like I enjoy or I don't enjoy. So, so just be careful how you read these questions. Okay, so question 26 is I frequently find that I don't know how to keep a conversation going. For this, I'm going to put slightly agree, because after the first, this is like the social chit chat, like after a few questions or a couple of statements, then I kind of do struggle with people, especially people, and even sometimes people that I don't know, that I do know, but I definitely struggle with people that I don't know that well. So for me, I'm going to put slightly agree with that. Okay, so question 27 is I find it easy to read between the lines when someone is talking to me. So reading between the lines, so if someone says, makes a statement, but they mean something else, can you read between the lines? If someone says to you, oh, I can't afford that, but they can you read between the lines? Or if someone said, oh, I would love to have that for Christmas, hint, hint, but they don't say the hint, hint. For some people, you might not get it. For me, I would. So for that, I'm going to put slightly agree, because I think I do. I'm sure there's times often that I don't, but I think for the most part, I kind of get it from what I understand this question to be. Okay, so question 28 is I usually concentrate more on the whole picture rather than on the small details. Now, for me, I do understand the bigger picture. I'm not blind to it, but the small details I overly focus on and hyper focus on, at the detriment maybe at times to the bigger picture. So for this, I am going to put slightly disagree. I disagree that I concentrate more on the whole picture. So I do concentrate more on the small details. So again, just be wary of how you're answering the question. Okay, so question 29 is, and this might be one of those questions where you have to give a bit of thought to, but it's, I am not very good at remembering phone numbers. Now, in this day and age of mobile phones, I don't think anyone particularly remembers a lot of phone numbers. It's always in the mobile phone, scroll down and select. But I do remember phone numbers back from when I was a kid. My mum's phone number, my mum and dad's phone number. So yeah, I remember those numbers, but as regards my other half's number, I couldn't tell you. But I wouldn't say I'm not very good at it. I think I'm okay. So I'm going to slightly disagree with that one. Okay, so question number 30 is I don't usually notice small changes in a situation or a person's appearance. And for this, I'm going to select slightly disagree. I think I do. I think I do notice the small details. And this is a similar question to the one above that we did in part 1. So yeah, for this one, I'm going to select slightly disagree. Okay, so question 31 is I know how to tell if someone listening to me is getting bored. Well, if they start yawning and looking away and looking at their watch, it's probably a sign that they're bored. So I think I can tell that. So for that, I'm going to select slightly agree. Question 32 is I find it easy to do more than one thing at once. Now, sometimes I can. I'm quite good at multitasking to some degree, but very often I find I can't fully concentrate and I make a lot of errors and get very stressed when I try and do more than one thing at once, especially quite complex things as well. So for this, I'm going to select that I slightly disagree. Question 33 is when I talk on the phone, I'm not sure when it's my turn to speak. I know when it's my turn to speak. I may choose to overspeak at times, especially if I'm talking about something I'm really interested in. But I think overall, I'm going to slightly disagree with that statement. So question 34 is I enjoy doing things spontaneously. Now, this is one of those questions, not that it's difficult to answer. I think it's one of those questions where you have to be careful that you don't answer questions to make yourself look good or appear to come across in a different way. Because originally, I think I answered this question. I had to change it in the end, but I chose to answer that I agree. But then looking back at history and certain events, that yes, I do like to do things spontaneously if I orchestrate them. But if someone else says to do something spontaneously and it's not part of a plan, that it can at times cause an issue. Not all the time, but sometimes. So for that, I'm going to put slightly disagree. Okay, so question 35 is, I am often the last to understand the point of a joke. I get a joke. I get it as good, if not better, than the next person. So yeah, for that one, I'm going to put I definitely disagree. Now, question 36 is an interesting one for me because it's something that I've done throughout my life and not fully realised it was anything to do with this kind of neuro way of thinking. But question 36 is, I find it easy to work out what someone is thinking or feeling just by looking at their face. I do this often. Are you okay? Are you upset with me? Or are you upset? Are you okay? I tend to be able to, or at least I feel I can notice things like body language quite easily and pick up on things, even though it's not maybe a conscious thing. So for me personally, I'm going to strongly agree, or definitely agree rather, with that one. Question 37 is something that I thought I could do, but thinking back again, I realise actually I do struggle somewhat at times. And that is, if there is an interruption, I can switch back to what I was doing very quickly. Now, I can switch back, and in some cases I can do just as quick as when I stopped. But if I'm really hyper-focused on something and I get kind of distracted, it can take a little while longer to kind of get back to that kind of, especially that level of hyper-focus, I suppose. So for that one, I'm going to put slightly disagree. So question 38 is the opposite to a question we had towards the beginning of the test. And it says, I am good at social chit chat. And if you remember before, there was one that said, I am not very good at social chit chat. Now, so again, I'm going to answer that the same way, but the opposite to the first time. So I wouldn't say I'm good at social chit chat. I do struggle. So I am going to slightly disagree with that. It's probably somewhere between that, but you can't, there's no option to choose between slightly and definitely. So question 39 is interesting because this does happen. So I've chose slightly agree for this one. Okay, so question 39 is, people often tell me that I keep going on and on about the same thing. So for me, I selected slightly agree. It's borderline. I have been told this before. So yes, if it's something that, again, that I'm really interested in, then maybe I will repeat it again and maybe again a bit later on. So people do kindly remind me that maybe I'm just repeating something and that, I suppose they say it in a polite way, but it has been said on a couple of occasions. So I'm going to put slightly agree. So question 40 is one of those questions for me that I had to think about a little bit because it's about childhood. And I'm 45 now, so, I don't look it, all right? But it says, when I was young, I used to enjoy playing games involving pretending with other children. Now, there's a similar question higher up on the statements than this about imagination. But this is about, so imagination and pretending are kind of similar, I suppose. But when I was a young boy, I suppose, as opposed to a young man, I used to enjoy playing games, but the pretending part was a little bit more limited. So one such occasion for me very quickly was the fact that we would play wrestling, and it was WWE or WWF, whichever way it changed its name to back then. And we would play wrestling and somebody would go, I'm Hulk Hogan, or I'm the Ultimate Warrior, and whoever else, like the British Bulldog and all that kind of jazz. And for me, let's start that again. And for me, I enjoyed doing the wrestling part, playing that part, but not too worried or bothered about basically walking in the shoes of a wrestler or choosing to be that person. I just wanted to be a big, tough wrestler at that moment in time during that play session. So for that one, I am going to select slightly disagree. So question 41 again is a stereotypical question, but it is, I suppose, somewhat straightforward. Is I like to collect information about categories of things. For example, types of cars, birds, trains, and plants. So none of those things or anything similar. I don't collect information about categories of things. If I have an interest, be it electronical or something of scientific nature, then I will do a lot of research around that and get information gathering. But I don't collect information in that sense. Like, I suppose that what they're saying is, if you've got a very special interest in birds, then you would collect lots of information around that, I suppose, and as a collection point of view, whereas I don't. So for that one, I've put definitely disagree. Okay, so question 42, and we're getting towards the end now, so not long. You can make yourself a nice cup of tea and pause if you want to. So question 42 is, I find it difficult to imagine what it would be like to be someone else. For this, again, it's kind of borderline, but just over. I've selected slightly agree. I've given this a lot of thought over time, and I suppose I could pretend to be a king using intellect and play, but to be what it would actually be like for somebody else, I find it not totally, but slightly difficult to understand. So it's a very complex one for me, that one. It's all about empathy, I suppose, and putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And I can do that to an extent, but it really depends. So for that, I'm going to select slightly agree. Question 43 is, I like to carefully plan any activities I participate in. For that is not a difficult question, unlike the last one for me. So for that, I've put definitely agree, because I plan and plan and plan. I've been told I plan and plan and plan, and some people like it, some people loathe it, but either way, I plan. So that's a plan. So my plan is to do that. So that's another plan. So question 44 is, I enjoy social occasions. Very similar question to one we've had previously. Now for this, I'm going to put slightly disagree, because I do find it a little bit difficult in social occasions. I suppose the only way you can attribute that statement is, I suppose, to something like a party, maybe a birthday party, maybe a slightly bigger family gathering. Now you may feel comfortable in that situation, you might find it a little bit more difficult. So that all depends on you. But in this case, I am selecting slightly disagree. So question 45 is, I find it difficult to work out people's intentions. Now this is a very borderline one for me. I'm not sure which way to answer this, and it kind of goes either way if I do this test maybe more than once. And for me, I've put slightly agree. Like, I could tell you someone's going to try and rob me, yeah? So that's their intentions. But if their intentions is to kind of do an over on me, and they know me, maybe at work, you know, that happens sometimes, then maybe I won't see it. Maybe I'll be too trusting or something along them lines. And that's kind of how I'm choosing to answer this. So it depends to what extent they mean by people's intentions. It's quite broad. So, but I am going to select slightly agree, because I can for a good chunk, but there is times sometimes where maybe I just don't get it. Maybe that's just me, or maybe that's the autistic in me coming out. So question 46 is a simple one for me. It's, new situations make me anxious. They do, especially if it's new, where I'm going to meet new people. I worry and stress about getting there on time. I worry about who's going to be there, what's going to happen. You know, I don't go into a panic mode and break down, but I can get very stressed and anxious, and then get a little bit narky as well with myself, or maybe with other people. So I have to mask as much as possible, which again, I'm sure you're aware, just adds extra stresses, and later on in the day maybe, or when that comes to a head, if you can't kind of relax straight after the event. So question 47 is, I enjoy meeting new people. For me, I have to put, I slightly disagree, because I do find it difficult meeting new people. because I'm trying to work out the intentions, trying to work out this, trying to work out that. Very stressful. So it can be, not that I have a breakdown about it, but it does, it can be quite intense. I'm trying to work out analytically everything about it, and maybe when it doesn't need to be. So yeah, I'm going to put slightly disagree for that one. Okay, so the last 3 questions. Question 48, I am a good diplomat. This is something that I have swayed backwards and forwards. And I had to look online at another test that would show me an information that would kind of break that down for me a bit more as to what a good diplomat is, because I think I'm quite okay at this. But from the test that I did online, and I can't remember what test it was now, exactly where it was online, but it kind of worked out that I'm maybe not a great diplomat. You know, I'm okay. And again, it all is circumstance dependent as well. So for that, I'm going to put slightly disagree. I think I'm good at times, and also there's going to be a lot of times that maybe I'm not the best because I look at things too logically or analytically as well. So that doesn't help in a lot of situations, even though you think it would, wouldn't you? So yeah, I'm going to put slightly disagree for that one. Okay, so question 49, 2 left. I am not very good at remembering people's date of birth. I'm going to say for that, I slightly disagree. I'm okay, I'm good at it. He says I am not very good. So if I was very good at it, you know, but I'm going to say slightly disagree because I'm okay. You know, I can remember most people's birthdays within reason. So yeah, it's not a big issue with that really. There's going to be some that you don't, you know, you might choose to forget. But you know, that particular friend. But overall, I'm going to put slightly disagree for that one. So question 50, the last one. Question 50 is, I find it very easy to play games with children that involve pretending. This is basically very similar to another question or two from before, but worded somewhat differently. I can play games with children. I played games with my own 2 boys when they were younger. So yeah, you can. I think it's when I was younger, I struggled more with the pretending part. I didn't quite get it. But now, especially as being a dad, and a dad to young children a few years ago, when they were into the pretending side of things, that I could participate in that and be fine with that. So for that, I'm going to put slightly agree. Okay, so that is the 50. Yeah, the 50 questions on the AQ50 test. They're done and dusted. Okay, so now we're going to submit my answers and see what score I've got. Okay, so I've got my score and I'm going to do a print screen. Okay, so as you will see, my score was 36 out of a possible 50. So the scores in the 33 to 50 range, when that should technically be 32 to 50 range, indicate significant autistic traits, and in brackets, autism, in case you didn't know. So yeah, so that is the AQ50 test. So yeah, 36. I think that is as honest as I can be in the test. I've gone through and tried to explain each question with you over this episode and the last episode. So yeah, so let me know what your scores have been and how you found the AQ50 test. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a big thumbs up. And any comments or questions, or you want to share your score down below, or you want to talk and share your experience about your autism and your journey, be it diagnosed or not, then share that and put that in the comment section down below. And I will endeavour, as always, to read and reply where I can. And if you are new to the channel, which inevitably you probably will be, then if you are, then I suggest that you click subscribe, which is a button in these corners, in one of the corners. Again, I don't know if it's going to be mirrored or not, so we'll find out. In one of these corners, I'll take a choice, that one. And so press that and press the notification bell as well, to be informed of any up and coming videos. So guys, thank you very much for watching the video. Thank you for your support. Share if you need to, if with somebody that maybe is considering taking the AQ50 test, or who believes they may have autistic traits. So yeah, until the next video, my friends, stay safe. I'll see you on the next video.
Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side.
Day we hustle, but the night we
Know that they ride or die.